If you've been scrolling through endless floor-standing speaker lists, watching video after video of people raving about the best model, and still feel stuck between "I need more bass" and "I don't want a monster that takes up the whole wall," this review is going to help you cut through the noise. I've spent the past week setting up a pair of Polk Audio Reserve 500s in a mid-size apartment, listening to everything from vinyl jazz to modern pop, and comparing notes with a few friends who own both bookshelf and full-size towers. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I found is that the Reserve 500s sit in a sweet spot that many people overlook. They're compact enough to fit in tighter rooms but still deliver the floor-standing presence you expect from a bigger cabinet. Let's start with the biggest question most buyers have: will these speakers actually fill my living room, or will I end up with thin, room-filling sound that still feels distant? When I played a live-recorded drum kit, the snare landed right in front of me, the cymbals shimmered on the edges, and the low end, while not earth-shaking, was surprisingly full for a cabinet that small. That's a practical strength. You get a genuine floor-standing feel without needing a dedicated subwoofer for everyday listening. Now, let's talk about the real-world trade-offs. Because the Reserve 500s are designed to be compact, the bass cone is smaller than you'd find in a true-size tower. If you're the type who watches blockbuster movies with explosions that rattle the windows, you'll probably notice a little less impact compared to a larger, ported tower. In practice, that means you'll either accept a tighter low-frequency response or pair the pair with an inexpensive subwoofer. I tried the speakers solo, and while the bass was clean and controlled, the deepest notes, think the low rumble of an ocean wave, fell off around 45 Hz. For most music, that's fine. For heavy action home theater, you'll want that extra push. One of the hidden advantages of the Reserve line is the driver technology Polk uses to keep distortion low, even at higher volumes. In my testing, I cranked the volume to a level that would normally reveal harshness in cheaper speakers, and the mids stayed smooth. Vocals stayed present, guitars retained their bite, and the overall tonal balance didn't shift dramatically as the room got louder. This is especially useful if you're sharing a space with a roommate or a partner who prefers a lower volume. You can still enjoy detailed music without needing to sit right up against the speakers. Who should actually consider buying these? First, anyone who's currently using bookshelf speakers and feels they've outgrown them but can't justify a full-size tower. The Reserve 500s give you that floor-standing upgrade without the footprint of a typical 8-foot cabinet. Second, people who care about aesthetics as much as sound will appreciate the walnut finish. It looks intentional, not an afterthought. Third, budget-conscious audiophiles who want a reputable brand's entry-level floor-standing option will find the price point reasonable for the Polk Reserve series. If you already own a decent AVR and a pair of decent quality bookshelf speakers, swapping in the Reserve 500s is a low-risk way to see a noticeable improvement in imaging and overall presence. Who might want to skip them? If you have a dedicated home theater room that's 20 feet or larger, you'll likely need more output and deeper bass than this compact design can deliver. Also, if you're a bass-heavy genre fan, think EDM, hip-hop, or cinematic scores where you expect the room to shake, you'll probably feel the need for a dedicated subwoofer or a larger tower. Finally, if you plan on driving these speakers with a low-power integrated amp that barely reaches 50 watts per channel, you may not get the full dynamic range they're capable of, because the Reserve 500s benefit from a bit of headroom to keep those mids and highs clean. Putting the speakers into a real-world setup is where the rubber meets the road. I placed them on hardwood floors, about 2 feet away from the back wall, and angled them slightly inward. The walnut cabinet didn't bounce the bass, but the solid wood helped keep the speakers from rattling on the floor. When I moved them to carpet, the low end tightened even more, which shows that floor material can subtly shape the response, a useful tip if you're trying to fine-tune the bass without adding extra gear. I also experimented with the toe and angle. A modest 5-degree inward tilt gave me a wider soundstage without compromising the center image. That's the kind of Hansen adjustment you can make without any fancy calibration software. Another practical consideration is connectivity. The Reserve 500s are passive speakers, so you'll need an amp or AV receiver with enough power to drive them properly. I paired them with a mid-range AVR that delivered around 80 watts per channel.